Hello and welcome back to What the Falk at the Euros. We are back for potentially our last preview show. We've delved in between having experts from the nations that we've played and then delved into just chatting between the lads and talking about the game upcoming. I'm going to pretend that it was my purposeful choice to have the lads on tonight to talk about how excited they are for the last four tournament, as opposed to the fact that every Dutch journalist on the planet is busy. First and foremost, Dave, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, not bad at all, thank you.
We'll play in the Netherlands, not Germany.
I was just trying to do my best Steve McLaren impression.
I genuinely,
Oh,
you could have gone with the the gold member shtick. Oh, hit gold. And of course, the intolerable Bradley Sharp has also joined us. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Buzzing for tomorrow, I think.
I'll stick with you on that. Because we're recording this preview probably as late as we've ever done it, but it is like the fixtures are coming thick and fast, and I think you have a minute to review the show, and then all of a sudden you're like a day away from it. And I was watching the Spain France game, watching this after this, so we know that if England do progress tomorrow night or tonight, as you are listening to it, it'll be Spain that will play. And actually, there's not much nerves about me. Is that kind of a thing? I mean, like you say, you're buzzing for it. That I don't feel nervous, Brad. Do you think that's because we've been here like so many times now at semi-finals?
Let's not get carried away.
It's true though, isn't it? Like we've been to like
It is.
three of the last
Um,
four.
I
Are we
know it
getting
sounds
used
daft
to it?
to
Is what I
say.
mean.
I know it sounds daft to say because we just watched, especially the first half there, France and Spain was outstanding, the standard. But I'd feel more confident playing against the likes of France or Spain than I would against the teams that we've played in the past because they ain't going to sit in a low block. And honestly, I think the game would be absolutely fantastic. Yes, we need to get past the Dutch first, but we're that close. And I know we've been negative about Mr. Southgate and we've tried to be upbeat when we've obviously had the last minute goal from Jude and all the carries on from that game and then the penalty shootout win the other night. But it's got to click now. Like, you're so close. Just give us a performance tomorrow. That's just all I want. It's gonna be the longest day of the year tomorrow, I think. But yeah, I am excited for it, and I think it's just because you're that like you say, you said it after the last 16 game, you're 3 wins from winning it, or
Hmm.
two. We're 2 wins from winning it now, and we're unbeaten in this competition so far. So let's just do it. Let's do it, please.
I've got to say, I think there's a lot of people saying about like surely it clicks at this point, and that I want us to play well and I want us to do this. I honestly couldn't care less how we win it tomorrow. If it's another boring, turgid performance where we get through on penalties, that doesn't bother me. I think the more this tournament's gone on, the more I've realised that England are doing what we used to kind of admire the Germans and the French and the Spanish for back in previous years, just having quality players that can just do quality things at important moments. Which is probably why I feel quite calm about tomorrow. I don't know if I would say I'm confident. I'm quite chilled about it. I think, back in the day, I used to always look back at Euro 96 as like the moment of my childhood when it comes to England because we got that semi-final and you kind of had that hope. There hasn't really been anything since then up until the World Cup in 2018. And since then, it's just been like semi-finals and a final and that quarter-final at Qatar. But I think I'm kind of getting half used to it with England, and I'm not saying like it means that I'm not nervous, but it's not the first time we've kind of done this rodeo, and we've won one of them. We've lost another one, obviously. Croatia we lost, Denmark we didn't. But like I feel quite calm about it. I kind of have switched completely from being, I think I was annoyed earlier in the tournament, and I'm a big Southgate fan. But I was starting to question kind of what the team was doing in the group stages in the Slovakia game. I kind of thought, if you kind of enjoy the way we've won it, then there's no point in being a football fan. But it was pretty poor. But over the past sort of 4 or 5 days since the Switzerland game, I'm really chill about it. I'm excited. I have confidence in us, and I don't care how we win it as long as we win it. That's the most important thing. But Dave, you felt more excitable than usual. after the Switzerland game. You kind of seem to turn a little bit. How are you feeling? We're less than 24 hours this time tomorrow. We'll probably know if we're going to be in the final or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I, I hear that Shaw will be on the bench tomorrow, which is understandable. Be interesting to see if Mr. Southgate does go Saka on the right, Trippier on the left. I think we look,
Stuck in the middle menu.
yeah, exactly that. Um, I think we look controlled enough and turgid enough to not concede like 3 or 4 goals in a game. And while we've got so many outstanding players on the pitch, and especially when he brings them off the bench and onto the pitch, I think we've got every chance of scoring 1 goal at least. So, yeah, I'm the same as you. I'm quite comfortable in my thought process going into the game. Um, I don't envisage Holland like blowing us away. So therefore, we're in the game, and judging by Gareth Southgate's attitude, as long as we're in the game, we've got a chance. So I'm with them in that respect. I'm exactly the same as you, mate. Like Euro '96 is the one that sticks in my head massively. I was 10-year-old and absolutely just it captured my imagination. Obviously, bits and pieces and Gaza sitting Colin Hendry on his arse and slotting it away and stuff like that. Always a great memory. And the football hasn't been as exuberant, hasn't been as exciting as '96. But to be fair, if we go one step further and get into a final, do I really care? Probably not.
I think in a way though, like, and this is going to sound like totally in contrast to how like maybe the group stage podcast went, but Brad, I suppose like you would have snapped your something off to have kind of the level of success we've had recently and to be in these tournaments and feeling relatively confident. And I mean, look, we've won a game against Slovakia. Okay, Slovakia, but with a 95th minute equaliser, which was a bicycle kick. And then England won another penalty shootout. We've just got to kind of enjoy it, I think, tomorrow, but haven't we really? Like, come what may, really.
Yeah, I think we've just got to enjoy it for what it is. No one's going to. If we get the final and somehow go on and win it, right, no one's going to look back at the Slovakia game, the Denmark game, the Slovenia game.
Nah.
We're just going to be buzzing and think. And I have had a bit of time to reflect, and I think you summed it up perfectly at one point, Graham, and said, if that was the Germans playing, or the French, or the Spanish in years gone by, or even the Dutch, and they haven't played well, and then they've done it the way we have, you just say that's just the way it is. They've got great players, and I do think a lot of teams around the world will be looking at it and go, you know what, they haven't played that well, but goodness me, they've got some good players in there. Saka's goal the other night, Bellingham's overhead kick, things like that. So they will fear us in a way, and I think we have to enjoy it. I don't think it's going to be as turgid as previous games because I think the Dutch will fancy the chances as well. So they are going to come out at us, and I know we haven't seen it yet, but I think a team that comes out at us and plays a little bit more open football is going to suit us. I know we don't want to talk about Sunderland as much, but it was the same as Mowbray when we were away from home. Teams came out at us and left the gaps for our front 4 or 5 players just to tear them a new one, and to a different level of class. I believe that's what's going to suit England. Look, the Dutch aren't going to leave massive holes. They've got a great defense, and probably one of the best centre halves in the world. But we've got players that can combat that easily, given half a chance.
I think when you look at the Dutch's defense, it's weird because of how good the Dutch defense is on paper. But like the group stages, they were pretty shaky. The Austria game in particular, like Austria just got at them. I think the difference is, I think I watched the Holland Netherlands versus France game, and it was a really boring game of football. It was like chess, and I think both teams were happy with a draw because I think both teams thought they'd progress in either first or second, and it would be based around goal difference and whatnot. But I think when you're looking at like the Dutch at that point, I think they didn't attack quite as much as they have done in the knockout stages, and I think a lot of that's to do with the fact that the defense has been a bit shaky at points at this tournament, and I thought let's just kind of go for it. But I do think that if England can perform at the level they can perform to, I think that gives England not just a good chance to get at the Dutch as well. I think it gives us a really good chance to control the game. But it does depend on obviously the team that they play and who turns up and X, Y, and Z. But that there is a question, Dave will probably know by this point because Sky Sports, as I said the other day, for some crazy reason, have been posting the team like 2 days before the game kicks off, which is just stupid in my opinion. I think Southgate's commented on it. Like, just don't do that. But we're going to find out about it anyway. The latest one is that we think Trippier is going to play tomorrow. Imagine you Gareth Southgate for a minute, Dave. What is your team tomorrow? How would you personally set up?
Hi, my name is Gareth, and this is my team for
I
tomorrow.
I really like. I feel so sorry for Southgate at the minute because like I was watching him like punch the air and stuff the other day, right? And I still see people absolutely hammering him. Like obviously we're kind of in jest here and stuff like that, but like online, some people are like really vicious. And like I was watching him punch the air in that the other day when we won against Switzerland. I thought, and I talked about it on the last podcast. It's never been a better time for me to be an England fan, even if the football's not free flowing and amazing. Like there's never been a better time, and I think I might really love him. So I team Southgate up until we get beat, which we hopefully won't.
Yeah, if we win it, I'll take back. I won't take back every negative, but I will finish
You fucking will.
my. I will finish my love affair with him because I'm sure it's his last tournament anyway. But I
Yeah.
will say, I tell you what, fair play to the bloke. He's took his pelters and he's moved on. And the one thing I'll say for him is he's balanced. So yes, he did enjoy his celebrations the other night, absolutely rightly so, just like the rest of us. But his argument would be in really critical moments and things like that, a balanced approach is what sees you through. And I can't argue with that for the fact he's won penalty shootouts, he's come from behind. No pun intended. So I think he's going to set up the same. I can't see it changing one little bit. I think Trippier starts on the left. I think Saka is on the right, and that's where all the dangerous play will come from. And yeah, I think really importantly tomorrow, they called it the other day when the Dutch played, when they went 1-0 behind, their midfield was just overrun. And I think our Manu and Declan Rice will be far too good for them. Far, far, far too good. So if that's where the game's going to be won, I fancy them to do a really stellar job. I mean, I think 2 games ago, anyone who completed over 100 passes in the tournament, Manu was top stat, 96%. He's still 96%, and he's now made over 166 forward passes or something like that. Not a bad statistic, and I think he makes everything tick, and I think he's been fantastic. I just saw a tweet online before saying about how it's all about the next generation, and I fully agree with it. For as much as Yamal will get all the praise, and whoever else has been absolutely fantastic this tournament, I think Manu's slipping under the radar, and I think he's going to be a big, big part of how we play tomorrow.
I think when you look at talking about younger players, and I think Minu's been excellent for us. I 100% agree. But you touched on that Lamal as well, like almost as good as Chris Rigg. It's just like what a talent. Just a little bit more, and he'll be on the same sort of level as Chris Rigg, I think.
I was talking to the coaches, and like there's 4 of us for Archie's team, and I was saying tonight, I said this kid's 3 years older than the kids that we manage every week. 3 years older, and he's in the Euro final. Wow, he is a talent in mind, but like you say,
talking about lack
he's
of
not
nerves.
Chris Rigg.
Talking about lack of nerves, Brad. If that changes, that changes hugely for me if we get through. Because watching Spain tonight, annoyingly, they looked like Spain when they had like Iniesta and Xavi and all that, and I was like, oh shit. And they've also got the 16-year-old kid that, like, all jokes aside, looks like the real deal already, which is just like. But anyway, when you get through the the Dutch first, which I think is a huge task. But Dave said he doesn't see much changing tomorrow. I do. I think the one thing he will definitely change. I'm going to throw this to Lee because Lee's randomly joined us. We're talking about the team setup and stuff like that, Lee. I think we're going to know by this time you're listening to it because Sky Sports will tell you. And they're already telling us that Trippier's playing, which I've got to be honest and say I don't agree with. I've said the whole tournament, it kills our balance. I'd get Luke Shaw back in, even if he, can do like 70, 75 minutes. You might be able to do something in 75 minutes. We just look so much more balanced with him there. I don't think you can take Saka off the right after his performance as much as it would give us balance if you put him on the left and then Trippier on the right. But there is one decision to be made, sorry, which is going to be at the back. I think they'll stay with the formation, but I thought Konza was really, really good, Lee, against Switzerland. But does Mark Gahey come back in, who's arguably been our most consistent player?
I think he's got to based on that. He's arguably our best player the opening games of the tournament until he got suspended. I think he's got to come back in. And I'd probably does sound harsh on Konza, you know how well he played, but if he's going to persist with Trippier and the same 11, then he's got to take Konza out, to be honest. I think it's to get Gay back in. I think he's got to play Gay. And personally, I'd take Foden out to suit Gay to move Walker the right wing back. But if he's going to persist for them, I think Gay's got to come back in over Konza. I think that's because he's our best and most consistent player of the opening stage of the tournament.
So if you were to change it, would you go with a back three that includes Konza, Stones, and Gahey moving?
Yeah. Obviously the wing backs.
The wing back.
Yeah, I'd have Walker right wing back, and obviously I'd bring Shaw in over Trippier at left wing back. Then just play Saka on the right, and Bellingham in behind Kane. If that three that he has been playing. That would be the two changes I'd make. But obviously, as we've read and what Sky is saying, he's going to persist with Trippier, which highly means he's going to persist with Foden. So it's a choice between Konza or Gay. And I think Gay's got to play over Konza. Harsh on Konza, right?
But I think it's harsh on Gahey if you don't bring him in, and Gahey's had probably another 3 better games. There's one conversation which I think a lot of the pundits and like former players on Sky and that have completely rubbish, but I've been sitting working today and it's been like repeating on Sky about Kane potentially being dropped. I think we chatted about it in sort of previous games, Lee. We've all discussed it. He doesn't look fit for me, but he's got 2 goals in 5 games, which is not a terrible record. It's actually one of the better ones in the tournament for strikers. Bearing in mind that Mbappe's just gone out the tournament after scoring just 1 penalty. So to give balance, Kane could say, well, statistically, I've looked all right. And I'm not the kind of person to say, oh, God, get Bellingham out if he's had a bad game or get Kane out. I actually think play your best players in the best possible way that you can, as long as it benefits the team. But I'm half tempted by Ivan Toney tomorrow night. If I'm Southgate, I mean, and there's a reason I'm not, but I think it's actually a valid argument. I don't think Kane has been fine, or he hasn't. He's looked injured for me. I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. He's looked injured. But do you play him for 65, 70 minutes knowing that Ivan Toney / Ollie Watkins are dying to come off the bench and can make an impact?
It's a hard one because, as you said in your past, and I agree with you, he's the best centre forward in the world on his day, really. But
yeah, I think so too.
The hard one, like I said to the lads at work today, if you want the ball to fall at anyone inside that 18-yard box, out that whole entire squad, you want it to fall at Harry Kane. Whether you want to give him the full night, like to start him, or whether or not being fit is a different matter. Personally, I'd play Ollie Watkins based on his pace because the Dutch aren't blessed with pace at the back. If you were going to drop Harry Kane, I'd bring Watkins in over Toney just for his pace alone, and maybe give Kane half an hour. But you can kind of understand from a point of view why Southgate is persistent with Kane for the fact that he's never let England down. He's scored important goals at important times, and as I said, if the ball falls to anyone inside that 18-yard box, they see it 90th minute, 0-0. You want to get a winner. Harry Kane's on top of your list, so you understand why he's playing. But I say he doesn't look. I agree with you. He doesn't look fit personally.
No, I don't think he looks fit either. I don't think he's looked fit since the start, and I think there's reasons to believe he's not playing at full tilt. I think Kane will start, Brad, so I'll not ask the same question. But for me, if England perform the way they can perform and the top players that we have do what we know they can do, I do think we're a better side than the Dutch. And that might come back and be egg on my face. You know, football's not played on paper and it's not played on podcasts. It's definitely played on grass and it's about who turns up on the night. But that's not to say the Dutch don't have some really good players. And I think that, you know, going forward, they've looked quite slick the past few games, which has been a bit of an improvement from what we maybe seen in the group stages, which is maybe not the way around we wanted it if we're playing them in the semi-finals, but maybe the only way we could have it. Who are the kind of players that, you know, you do have slight concern about? And I know like we like to go in and say we've got no concern about any players, but like this is not Sunderland in League One and having to worry about. I'm going to throw a random club in here. I'll say Gillingham because I know a few Gillingham fans, so they won't be too offended. And worried about like, you know, what Max Aim was going to do coming up from corners. This is international football at the semi-final stage. Doesn't matter how good your team is, there is going to be players that concern you there. So who are the ones that you think may be a bit of a problem tomorrow night and why?
I'm just going to say I know why you put Gillingham in there because I know Matt will be listening, won't he?
Yeah, Matt will take it. It's all right.
Yeah, good thing he's good cracking it.
I hope Michael Mandron doesn't play. We'll really struggle with his physicality. Can Lawrence de Mock handle it?
Right. From what I've seen this tournament, and I know he hasn't done much in the Premier League this year, it's been probably frustrating for Liverpool. But from what I've seen this tournament, I think Cody Gakpo has looked quite good.
He's looked really good, mate. Really good, actually.
He looked like he's sort of got the form he's in is why you can see Liverpool brought him in. And so there was a reason that they paid the money that they did for him. And they brought him in, obviously, for a team at the top end of the Premier League. You don't do that if you're not very good. So he is a danger man for them. And it's just, I mean, I've said him before, I think Virgil van Dijk, I know everyone says he's probably one of the best centre-halves in the world at the minute, but he has got flaws in his game.
He's not had a good tournament, and I don't think he's going to ever be as good as he used to be. He's definitely still an international class defender that could have a tremendous game tomorrow night and kind of throw it back the way Pepe did. But I don't look at Van Dijk the way that I used to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's better than him now.
I mean, Memphis Depay.
But for me, Xavi Simons is the one to watch.
Yeah.
He hasn't
Control
quite
midfield, doesn't he?
He hasn't quite hit fire yet. Based on kind of the level of performance he put in during last season. When he's at Leipzig, and obviously he was brilliant at PSV as well. But I know there's debate over how good the Eredivisie is in comparison to like other top level divisions. But he's got a few assists there. If you look at his stats, he's had a lot of chances created. He's kind of gone a bit under the radar without exploding yet. And there is a concern for me that there's always like sometimes a 20, 21-year-old that kind of shows up on the big stage. Tonight it was a 16-year-old for Spain. Could Xavi Simons be the one that changes that for the Dutch? I think it's a weird one because I think, you know, historically, England and Holland, Netherlands, I will say Holland, I've been brought up to say it was Netherlands, have both been teams that have historically sort of fell at this stage and sometimes in dramatically crap fashions where you penalties like last minute like winners for other teams and stuff like that. There is a little bit of pressure on both teams because none of us are none of us are big winners. We've won, I think, one major tournament each. I think the Dutch in 1988 with the Euros, us in 66 before any of us were born. So there is that level of pressure on both as well, which means that someone's going to come out with that pressure and push further forward. We've reached a major tournament final more recently than the Netherlands have. I think it's 2010, the last time they got to a final. So someone needs to show up and someone needs to perform. For me, from the Dutch perspective, it's Simons. But when you look at England and the match winners we've already had that have come to fruition that this tournament, your Bellingham's, Kane has got us a winner at this tournament as well, Saka in the last game. And they've got the more recent tournament experience at this point. I don't think the Dutch have been to a semi-final since, in the Euros at least, since 2004. That could also stand us in good stead.
Yeah. It's all about recent history, isn't it? And the experience that the players that are in your squad have got. And like we've touched on, they have got players in their team who have won titles, won cup competitions, but it's a completely different kettle of fish when you're getting there for club football than it is to national football. So yeah, I mean it really does fill me a bit more confidence that how many would you say? 70% of our squad have been in the last 2 or 3 major tournaments with us and know how to get over the line. And we've got here by all different routes, and we extra time penalties. So yeah, but that is a good point. That obviously the Netherlands, they have got a good history in football. They've always been that nearly team, haven't they? There or thereabouts. They're always a fancied team. But I mean, if you think of it as well, they know that they beat us in the Nations League not too long ago as well. When was that? 2019, maybe ish. So that there is that. If they want to say that's a major, fair play to them. But yeah, I mean, I just think that our class outshines their class, and where they are the strongest is in their defense, I think. And if you can break that down, especially early, I can't see them getting back in the game really. And another player that does actually, I was just looking through the team there, Nathan Ake. I really rate him, and he's really good at getting forward when he can. So there are dangerous players going forward, but I just think we will have too much, both mentally and in class.
If you look at our team from the last semi-final and how many players actually started the game, you've got Pickford, Walker, Stones, Saka, Rice, Kane. So there's 6. The other players for clarity were Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Calvin Phillips, Dealey missed, Mason Mount and Raheem Sterling. But then you look at sort of the bench that we had as well. Trippier was on the bench, yes, and came on that night. Foden came on that night as well. Bellingham was also on the bench because obviously he was part of that squad as well. So there is players that have got experience of getting over that line and getting to the next step. It doesn't always work that way, and obviously, we might get egg on our faces here, but there is a growing confidence within me and a calmness almost that the way we lose this game is if we don't turn up, which is just fair and square. That's what happens. If you lose the game because you haven't performed, then you haven't performed, and that's fair enough. You suck it up and get on with it. And for clarity, for what it's worth, if we weren't to win this, it would be the Dutch that I would want to win. But we've gone a bit short and sweet tonight because I'm knackered. And we kind of half forgot that we had to do a preview show, let's be completely honest. So, Dave, I'll go straight to predictions. We've all been quite calm, composed until the morning when I'm having verbal and physical diarrhea. But what's the... how do you see the game going? How do England win it? How do the Dutch win it? Who wins it?
I think England win, and I think I'm going to regret it, but I think comfortable night and 3-0 win. I think it is finally the time that it clicks. And then we've just got to deal with a young Spanish gentleman in the final, which just leads me on to a little point. BBC Sport just put a video on of him scoring in the semi-final of the under-17s World Cup against France, and it's exactly the same goal as what he scored this evening. What a lad, by the way. But yeah, England 3-0 on the way to Sunday. Come on.
Do you think that he was scoring that goal in the under-17 tournament when he was 12? Like 9-year-old running about, because he's obviously well above his years. Leo, I'm going to throw a slightly different question to you. I think the mentality and the mindset for me and a lot of England fans have changed with the way that we've won these games, because Slovakia was cack. for want of a word that my granddad would use quite a lot. But we did it in the most dramatic of fashion. I don't think I've ever seen England win a game that dramatically in a major tournament from my memory. And then we went on penalties, which historically we haven't done. Haven't done it in the Euro since '96, which is our first time beating Spain. If you could win tomorrow 3-0, or you could win in the last minute of a penalty shootout, and you know that's how you win it, what do you think gives you more momentum going into a final?
Winning 3-0 and winning comfortably 3-0, personally. I'd say so, because the lads have already shown the character and the mentality of getting through the games, like you've said.
Good point.
But I think if we go and win, say, 3, like even 2 or 3-0 tomorrow, and it's comfortable, I think it gives the nation a massive lift going into Sunday, which I think will pile the momentum on the team going into Sunday. Because then because there is some out there, me and Chloe, I think our name's written on it for the way we've been playing. We haven't been at our greatest, but yet we find ourselves in the semi-finals 90 minutes away from a final. And I honestly think if we can go and win 2 or 3-0, the whole nation will be on side. I think we're going to win it on Sunday, regardless if it's Spain and we're playing against a worldy 16-year-old. He'll be 17 by the time the final kicks off. But I think the whole nation will give them a lift if we go and win comfortable tomorrow.
For the record, if there's any people listening to this and thinking, "Oh God, they're confident," we're not going to come on a podcast and talk about what it would mean if the Dutch won. If the Dutch win, we're not doing a review show. We're back to the Sunderland podcast and we're fucking the entire thing off. So, as it stands at the moment, you'll be listening to it the day of the game, which will be probably slightly more nervous. But you've got to be confident in these games. If you don't enjoy it, then what's the point? Up until the kickoff, when my heart rate is going at 100 miles an hour. But Brad, you as well. I think like I say, that the confidence has slowly come back into the fan base, I think, in a kind of composed, calm way, which I think's got a lot to do with the way Southgate and the teams treat the games recently. But do you see tomorrow being as comfortable as what Dave and maybe Lee think, or do you think it's a little bit more of a Slovakia / Switzerland, which I have the feeling that I'm going to be put through the ringer once again tomorrow?
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because we've been saying it for the last only 5 games. It's got to click. If it clicks, we'll blow a team away. If it clicks, I'm sort of on the fence with it. So my prediction would be maybe 2-1, but it won't be a last minute goal. It maybe be like we'll go 2-0 up. They'll put the goal back and it'll be squeaky bum time. And we'll do it just to get over the line. I think it'll be like slap bang in the middle, and that one will probably give me more satisfaction as well, knowing that if we're going ahead, we can see a game out finally. But yeah, I do think we'll win, because even not at our best, I think we've got enough now. I think we've been through a lot of different experiences throughout the tournament that will assist us in getting over that line. But no, I don't think it'll be as comfortable as Dave's thinking. I mean, Dave thought we'd beat the Danes 4-0. Look how that went.
Didn't go very well at all, did it?
Oh no. And someone, I think it was Tony G on Twitter, actually followed his prediction and put money on it.
I mean, look, if you're listening to this podcast and taking advice from us, there's your first mistake. This file doesn't file under sport on Apple Podcasts. This files under comedy. And when it comes to predictions,
I'm going to say 2-1.
When it comes to predictions, it's tragedy, isn't it? Let's be honest.
You're a tragedy.
Yes. I feel a bit like you with that, and I really hope we get to do another review show. The last kind of Euros, when we concentrated on doing it, we missed the World Cup off because it was mid-season and there was too much Sunderland stuff on. We all loved doing the Sunderland stuff, but it has been honestly another pleasure. Even the bit when it hasn't been great doing this Euro stuff. I am really sad, and I think I've mentioned this before, that Jack couldn't be with us on these podcasts, which is still something that obviously I would have really liked him to be here to do them, because he was like an original Euros member, original Sunderland member of the podcast. So, I do hope we do it for everyone tomorrow night, and then Sunday. Look, it is what it is, but I've really enjoyed doing the podcast. I hope we're going to be back for a final preview, and I hope we're going to be back for a review show tomorrow at some point. By the time you're listening to this and I've edited it, it's going to be match day. So fucking get up for it, enjoy it, get behind them, and what will be, and hopefully we'll see you on Sunday.
Oh, well, lads,
That's
still the wrong one.
How are they? Oh, fuck.
Southgate, you're the one. You still
You
turn
still
me
turn me
on.
on.
Football's
Football's
coming
coming
home
home again.
I can understand why people hate this podcast.